Hey fam, welcome back to Pep Wednesday, where I put a little pep in your step for your midweek blues. This week, I want to talk about grace over grind. We're used to a hustle culture. Our lives are filled with busyness. And there's a better way of working. There's a better way of doing things. Let's talk about it. Running your own creative business is tough, more so during this lockdown period. And I've been feeling this pressure to really grind, to really push, to really work hard. I think a big part of it comes from seeing all the stuff other creatives are doing on social platforms. This leads to this urge to compete, to do better, to keep up with what everybody else is doing. This week has been a tough week for me. I haven't really felt peppy at all. It's been unmotivating, and all I really want to do is sit in bed and binge watch a Netflix series, possibly The Tiger King. And it's okay to feel this way. It's important to acknowledge what you're feeling. If you don't acknowledge it, it'll just build up and it'll lead to an explosion later down the line, one you don't want to deal with at that point. Give yourself some grace. Take time to care for yourself. It's important to note it's self-care, not self-pity. There are certain indicators that I've learned to identify, that when I see them, I know that I'm working from a place of grind over grace instead of grace over grind. And what that means is I'm striving like a headless chicken with no direction. So here are the 4 indicators that I look for. The first one is I'm anxious. Anxious about what my finance looks like. I am anxious in general. I'm feeling restless and agitated. And this anxiety doesn't necessarily match up with the numbers, because the reality is I know that I'm safe, that I have a certain amount of savings, but I still feel that anxiety. The second is I have a lack of sleep. Either one, I'm overexcited about a project and I'm pushing to get that done, or 2, I feel like I don't have enough time to do the project and I'm worrying about it, and so I don't get any sleep. The third indicator is analysis paralysis. This place of being unable to make a decision, being undecisive, feeling overwhelmed by everything around me, feeling overwhelmed by the decisions that I need to make. And the last but not least is the fact that the boundaries I initially set have blended and blurred, and I'm no longer sticking to the routines that I've created. The space for play and work have merged, and I'm no longer spending enough time with family, enough time with friends, and having a separation, because it's crucial for any creative, especially working from home, to create these boundaries. When I notice these 4 indicators, I know it's time for me to pivot. It's important to pivot because I know if I continue down the path of this anxious hustle, it'll lead to burnout. So you're at a pivot point. How do I change these things? How do I get rid of those 4 indicators that popped up? The first thing I do is spend time resting. It's important to rest. Give in to that urge to binge watch Netflix. It's okay. The whole world is on pause. You can pause too. Number two, and this for me is quite a personal thing, I know for a fact that I need to realign myself with my maker. After all, he created me, he gave me purpose. It makes sense to go back to him to find my game plan. And most importantly, number three, reinstate those boundaries that you had. Ensure that you are managing your time well and spending time doing life with people you love. Whether that is taking the time to do a video call if you're living alone, or spending time with your kids, or reaching out to family across the world. You don't have to strive endlessly to make things happen. Grace gives you rest. Grace gives you peace. And when you work out of a place of peace, you have clarity. And if you have clarity, you have vision. And if you have vision, you know where you're going and you're not striving like a headless chicken. So may grace be with you this week. And I'll see you next week.